The salty air stung Binet's eyes as he boarded the ship. It was a familiar sting. He was used to the goodbyes by now. Used to the way the gangplank felt like a bridge to another world. This time it was Chering's hand, slipping from his own, that cut the deepest. Her tear-stained face was etched in his mind. He thought about her constantly, her laughter, the way her nose crinkled when she smiled. His bunkmate, a grizzled old salt named Pralay, told him it never got easier. The leaving, the missing. But the coming home, Pralay said, that was a feeling like no other. Binet clung to those words like a life raft. The sea was a jealous mistress. She demanded his attention, his focus, his very soul. And for months on end she had it, but in the silences between crashing waves and roaring engines, Chering found her way back to him. In the quiet hours, she was the North Star guiding him home. Dear Chering watched from the shore until the ship was just a speck on the horizon. Her heart ached with a familiar emptiness. The apartment felt too quiet, too big without Binet's booming laugh and the comforting weight of his presence. She threw herself into her work at the Department of the Interior, paperwork and regulations, a poor substitute for his embrace. She kept their picture on her nightstand. It was taken on the beach, the sun setting behind them, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Thomas's arm was around her, his eyes crinkled in that familiar way that always made her heart melt. Sometimes, late at night, she would trace the outline of his face in the photograph, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. She watched videos of him on her phone, his goofy grin, the way he always squinted in the sunlight. He looked happy, free. It was selfish, she knew, but part of her wished he wasn't so content out on the open water. She needed him home, him. Nights on the ship were long. Binet would lie in his bunk, the rhythmic rocking of the waves, a lullaby that did little to soothe his soul. He missed her terribly, missed the way she could make him laugh until his sides ached, missed the feeling of her head on his chest, her soft breaths a counterpoint to the steady beat of his heart. He kept a small worn photo of her tucked into the corner of his mirror. In it she was wearing his favorite sundress, her hair catching the light, her eyes sparkling with laughter. He would stare at that picture for hours, imagining the feel of her hand in his, the scent of her perfume, the taste of her lips. He wrote her letters in his head. Long, rambling letters filled with all the things he couldn't say out loud. He told her about the storms, the sunsets, the loneliness that gnawed at him like a hungry beast. He poured his heart out onto those imaginary pages, finding solace in the act of writing, even if the words never reached her. The day his contract ended felt like a lifetime coming. He practically sprinted off the ship, his heart pounding in his chest. He hailed a taxi, his hand shaking as he gave the driver Chering's address. The familiar streets whizzed by, each one bringing him closer to her. He burst through the door of her apartment, his breath catching in his throat. There she was, even more beautiful than he remembered. Her eyes widened in surprise, then filled with tears as she launched herself into his arms. He held her tightly, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the warmth of her body against his. It was real. She was real. "I missed you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "So much." He didn't trust himself to speak, simply held her tighter as if he could fuse their bodies together, never to be apart again. They rented a room at a hotel overlooking the town. It was small, cozy, perfect. They spent the night talking, laughing, crying, catching up on the months they had spent apart. He told her about the storms, and she told him about the loneliness. They held nothing back, their words washing over them like a cleansing rain. As the night deepened, their kisses grew more intense, a desperate hunger consuming them. They moved together as one, their bodies a symphony of need and desire. It wasn't just sex, it was a reaffirmation of their love, a desperate attempt to erase the miles and the months that had separated them. In each other's arms they found solace, comfort, and a love that ran deeper than the ocean that had separated them. They had weathered the storm, and now, bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight, they were home. For tonight, this room, this bed, this was their whole world. They had all the time in the world.